nice Halloween?
It was good.
Watch any scary movies?
I did not. And I was
Play
kind
any-
of meaning to, but
Play any scary video games?
no, I was at my parents' place that night, so I couldn't.
Oh. Did you go trick-or-treating?
Nope. My dog basically got to go trick or treating more than I did.
Nice.
She got some treats from my parents and a new ball and everything. And
Wow.
I go, damn! I think my parents buy more for my dog than they do for me now.
Well, people love dogs.
Exactly.
You know this.
And it's basically their granddaughter, so. Yep.
You were just like, this is as close as they were gonna get.
Pretty
so
much.
enjoy it.
Pretty much. And I think my mom kind of knows that. So.
Then there's Oakley in her wizard outfit.
Yeah. If I didn't think Jasmine was just going to instantly rip off the outfit that I put on her, I probably would. But I was like, I've tried to put clothes on her before, and all she does is she'll grab it with her mouth and just rip it off. So I'm just like, well, I guess that tells me I'm not ever putting like clothes on you ever. She doesn't wear hats, and I was like, there was the one time I tried to get her like my mom got her like a Badger jersey or something like that, just like a Badger shirt,
and she was just not having it.
She just ripped it straight off. Not having any of it. It's like, you ain't making a fool out of me.
A fool? She would look pretty.
Yeah, but she thinks that we're making fun of her. I don't know. She's a diva. That's how I always look at it. She's a diva.
Sassy.
She barks. She doesn't bark at other people. Like, I was like, well, I was picking her up from daycare today, and all she was doing was barking at the other dogs for barking at the people that through the thing or whatever, just to get them to shut up. And I thought that was kind of funny. Hello, and welcome to another episode of It Never Ends. I am Andrew. Over there is my good buddy Alex. How you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
Just doing just right and dandy.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but what we both saw the FNAF movie over the weekend. Mm-hmm. What'd you think?
I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I had a lot of fun watching it.
That's what I said too. I was like, man, I'm surprised in how much I actually liked the FNAF movie, considering my expectations were low going in, but like.
Yeah.
I was just kind of just like, oh, that's interesting.
Bro, the animatronics looked so good in that movie, though. Like, it's crazy how good they looked.
That was one thing I said, too, and I was just like, huh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. And it's just like, we were talking afterwards of whether or not they would do a second movie or whatever.
They will. This movie is making, almost $100 million or something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy. I get it. Sometimes it reminds me just how much like the internet just loves FNAF, I guess.
I mean, like, once you get into FNAF lore, it's really, really cool. So it makes sense that they're making a movie based off that, since that's arguably the best aspect of the entire series.
That's fair. I love how I hadn't looked at like what Rotten Tomatoes score. Like the critic score was the 28%, and the audience score is at 88.
Wow,
that is surprising.
Staggering. Yeah.
Just looking at some of the reviews for like the critic score or whatever, and it's like people are my favorite one of what I just kind of quickly skimmed here. It's like the film unsuccessfully tries to merge two desperate tones in an uninteresting and often unsensical plot. And I'm sitting here going just like, clearly somebody's never like gotten into the lore. Or
it's so weird trying to rate a movie like FNAF.
It really
is. Like, I feel like if you're already a fan of the franchise, you're going to love this. Like, I don't think this is going to get anybody into Five Nights at Freddy's at all. No. This movie was made purely for people that are in on it and are sold on the on the series already.
And it's like, I look at it and I go, at the same time, it's like, it's not the same as like the first game, or like, I mean, granted, there wasn't much of a story for the first game when he first made it, but it's like it's a different take on it, because I've never heard of like Mike having like a brother, basically.
Yeah.
And that was like the driving plot point of like, oh, he's trying to do like this dream theory thing where he could see into the thing or whatever. I guess spoilers, just throwing it out there because I'm kind of like, but it is very minor stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, that was kind of revealed in the trailers.
Yeah. So I'm not too like concerned that it was like that was a spoiler, but I'm just saying spoilers going forward. Yeah. If you care. But it's like, I've never heard of Mike having a brother. I kind of knew that, like, I mean, granted, I'm not really up to date on FNAF lore, but I always thought what people were saying was that Mike was the son of William Afton, and it's like, and I guess that wasn't the case in the movie, or
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that Scott would sign off on something that didn't follow the timeline. So maybe,
I don't know. They made like Vanessa the daughter of Afton, so I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. Considering that Vanessa is a fairly new character within the FNAF game, because she was introduced for Security Breach, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Vanessa is the daughter of William Afton, though. Like, I'm almost positive of that.
Oh, that's right. I was trying to think of like what I was like. I thought the daughter was the puppet, but I'm pretty sure that was the other creator of the animatronics or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess she's. Wait, what? Dude, FNAF Noir is stupid. I'm. History, protagonist, blah 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 blah. Special delivery. I just want to know if she's William Afton's daughter. So, at least according to Reddit, the movie and the games take place in two separate canons. So, in the movie canon, Vanessa is William Afton's daughter, and in the game canon, it's Mike.
Alright, that makes sense. It's kind of what I thought, but it's like,
yeah,
considering that everything had kind of built on itself, I was just like, whatever.
It's whatever. It's Five Nights at Freddy's.
Exactly. That's why I said it. It was like, oh, this is fun. You know, it was kind of like, oh, watching the animatronics like murder all those people or whatever, like when that were trying to mess up the place. Mm-hmm. That was pretty funny.
I think it's funny that the animatronic with the highest body count in that movie is the cupcake.
Dude, right? Dude, that cupcake fucks.
Which is weird because in previous games the cupcake didn't do anything.
It's true. It's true. It did not do a whole lot at that time, but this time they were just like, no, it's this thing is going to be the most deadly thing. Also, it doesn't make sense in how it moves. Like
it bounces.
There was the one time it was like jumping on Mike's like leg or whatever. And then and then he like zaps it or whatever, and then it's like laying on the ground, laying on its side or whatever. And then it goes, and then it just like gets up, and I'm just like, what? It's like, how did you do that?
Wait a minute. The name of the cupcake is Carl. That's beautiful.
It has a name.
Carl the Cupcake is apparently its name.
Alrighty then. I didn't realize it had a name. Did you realize it had a name? Because I didn't.
No. I just looked up the cupcake, and it said, apparently it's called Carl.
Carl. Are we sure it's not Coral?
Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. This isn't The Walking Dead.
I don't know. So it's Five Nights at Freddy's. You really can't look too much into it, because it's just like... This is a movie where ghost children are controlling animatronics.
It's true. That's why I was like, was it entertaining? Yes. Did it
Yeah.
was it kind of fun at points? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, if that and that's how I kind of judge every movie. Like you can
Yeah.
get into the technical standpoint of like, oh, look at how beautifully this is shot. Look at the background composition or whatever. Like how the whole restaurant looked like something like a old school Chuck E. Cheese type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever, and I'm just like, I don't know. It was a cool campy type horror movie, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
I mean, what I was gonna say is, if in this world where ghost children are controlling animatronics and people can solve mysteries in their dream, if the first question you're asking is how does the cupcake move, you're asking the wrong question.
You really are asking the wrong questions. Like there's not even like a question at that point. Like you are just asking the wrong questions. Man, there are a few movies that I can say I was like, I really just don't give a shit about like how like stuff works at like times. Like it's just like, I don't know, it was fun.
Yeah.
I just like how like, you know, Mike sees like all these animatronics come to life and basically just like play with his sister or whatever, and he's just like. And then he just comes back the next day and just goes like, all right, just don't have too much fun with your friends now the next time. And you just go, okay, I guess this is just normal now.
This is fine. This is the most normal thing in the world. And when he gets into the taxi,
just another Tuesday night.
That giant animatronic in the taxi, the fact he's just like, man, I always get all the weirdos.
It's like weirdos. And I'm just like, it's another fucking Tuesday night for this guy. Like he sees it all the time. Like, okay.
Now I'm just imagining just like the animatronics getting like into his taxi on just random nights.
Well, how do you think he got to the house?
Wait a minute, that's a good point.
He took the taxi there.
What the fuck?
It's like, how do you think the Freddy? Do you know what's really funny? The point that they really glossed over is, you know, the Freddy then, you know, just killed the aunt there, and it's just like, wow, that never came up ever again.
Well, it was like everybody hated the aunt. So,
well, I know, but it's like
but
here's the thing. Like, okay, here's the thing from the cop's perspective. Okay, let's just say this for a second here. Okay, from the cop's perspective, this. His aunt basically, like, in his own house was laying there dead, and it's just like, wouldn't you suspect foul play there, if considering that you know that he's not well liked by the aunt or anything like that?
No, and here's why. Vanessa is a cop, so she was
in a coma. So there's no one else to vouch for her other than the daughter, or not the daughter, the sister. Which I don't think they would. I don't think they would believe the sister.
Vanessa would just be like, "Yeah, she fell down the stairs. It's whatever."
William Afton killed him. Killed her. All right, where is he? He's probably he's sitting in Freddy's. You know, trapped in some Springtrap suit. It's fine. He's like he's being tortured to, you know, forever.
So that's neat.
Yeah. Then a little sneaking at the end. It's like, can we ever go see them again? It's like, you never know. And I'm just like, well, I think that says they're maybe wanting to make a sequel, but they want to see how well this one does first. And considering it's doing very well. Yeah.
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 Apparently they want to make this a trilogy, and I think they're going to be able to. Absolutely.
It's always like, you see that, like, I recently saw a trailer for another Hunger Games movie, which is like a prequel to the Hunger Games, and like President Snow.
Songbirds and Snakes, yeah. I saw that trailer a few times too.
I sat there going just like, what the fuck? It's like they just won't let that series die, will they?
I guess not. I've never been a fan of the Hunger Games, so I'm just here like, okay.
I watched the first movie. It was whatever. I watched the first movie. I read the first book. It was fine. I thought it was pretty good. And then it just kept going and going and going, and then I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? So that's how I look at it. I just go, man,
Yeah.
they should have just quit after the first movie. It's like sometimes it's not you can't just
They
be
make
a one-hit
too much
wonder
money.
anymore.
No, obviously not.
Like Avatar was that for the longest time until they made like the sequel this year.
I mean, people have known since the end of the first one that they've wanted to make multiple sequels. It's like the next year he's talking about, like, yeah, I'm going to make 8 more movies. And it took him forever just to make one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I get
and
that, but like, it didn't need it.
I mean, I agree with you.
I saying this as I haven't even watched the damn thing, but you know.
You have to remember at the exact same time that these Hollywood executives, all they're thinking about is the monetary value of these franchises.
The money.
It's like, as long as the MCU keeps making money, they're not going to make any changes to it. Or,
absolutely not.
God forbid, stop fucking making movies. They're talking right now about bringing back Black Widow and Iron Man from the dead for the next Avengers movie.
Yikes. How does what is it, Scarlett Johansson and what's his face, Robert Downey Jr. think about that? I thought that was I was like, I wonder what they honestly think about that, because it's like, unless they're not, I couldn't see those two people not playing those roles if they all of a sudden brought them back, right? But that doesn't that just kind of like that doesn't make their sacrifice like good at that point from Endgame.
Agreed. You know what my idea is? Just reboot the MCU.
I mean, I thought that's what they were doing, but everyone said they fucking hated it, and I guess now Marvel is just listening to all the haters rather than actually listening to the people that whose opinions actually matter.
That makes no sense to me. I mean, I'd be completely fine if they just went back, make like another Iron Man movie, get some new heroes in this time, get Spider-Man there from the beginning. Make it Miles Morales.
Well, didn't they want to? I mean, I think that's the long play, but I was like, I think that's. But didn't they want to do like, what was it, Falcon? They wanted to be like Captain America because they gave him like the shield at the end of the Endgame, and then they had like his own spin-off series.
I mean, yeah, the whole thing
did anything ever even come with that?
No, and I don't think it's going to. But honestly, the thing that I think is really dooming the MCU right now, and this is going to be kind of a controversial opinion, I think the TV shows aren't doing them any favors whatsoever. Because it's like, I look at the Marvels right now, and it's like, yeah, it looks like a fun movie. The fact that I need to be caught up on like 2 to 3 television shows to have a good understanding on what's going to happen in that movie just kind of kills it for me.
Well, that's just me and the whole MCU at this point. Like, it's like the entirety of the MCU. It's like, oh, I get that now. It's like they did kind of like a hard reset with like Endgame and whatever. But I still sit here going just like, but to understand everything up to this point, don't you have to have a core concept of everything before? Like this, basically, this is the problem with building up this giant interconnected franchise or whatever. Is that I agree with you. I agree with you to an extent, but at the same time, I'm not saying it's just the TV shows. I'm also saying it's just
I agree
the concept of the whole MCU is also not helping it.
Where you need to watch everything, every single thing to understand even the most basic of movies now. It's silly.
Like, could you imagine watching, like, Spider-Man No Way Home? Like, imagine that was, like, your introduction to the MCU or whatever. You'd be so fucking lost. I don't know.
I mean, it would also be a lot less exciting if you didn't watch like the Andrew Garfield or the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Not even just those, but like just like your first like introduction to a like superhero movie, like in general.
It would be terribly confusing.
It'd be so jarring. You know?
And then imagine telling your kid, it's like your kid comes home from school, it's like, oh, my friends say this movie's really cool, I want to watch it. And you're just like, well, if you want to watch that, here's a list of movies you need to watch beforehand. And it's like,
here's like every Marvel movie in like chronological order or whatever. Like,
and now when you think that they're thinking of adding in like the old like X-Men movie series and like the other like Spider-Man universes into the MCU, how much more confusing and how much more difficult it is going to be to keep up with this universe. It's like, it's a mess.
Yeah,
no one's going to understand this bullshit.
Yeah, I'm good. I was just like, I'm fine with that.
I mean, I've missed only one MCU movie so far, and I feel like I'm too lost to watch like the Captain Marvel sequel. We're obviously in very, very bad territory, and maybe this is just a me issue. If you just rebooted the MCU, you don't need to include the exact same heroes, but create like keep in like Captain America and Iron Man, but have like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, have like Doctor Strange there from the beginning, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I could see that happening in like, I don't know, like 10 years from now, but
maybe when people officially are just like, okay,
just done
I've
with
had
it.
enough yeah, basically.
Just like, all right, you had your day in the sun, Marvel. Now it's move over for the next thing. I mean, that's why people say like after Endgame, after the whole lead up, I was like, I know I've said this before, but it's like they literally could have ended the MCU after Endgame. Like, it was the perfect send off. It was everything had been done to the complete. Everything that needed to be said, everything that needed to be done, the ultimate enemy that they had been building up for years was defeated, and the ultimate sacrifice of two of the oldest characters in the MCU. It's like they could have ended it right there and then, and like you said, rebooted it and just done it all over again, but slightly different. They could have done that, but they decided they didn't want to do that.
That sliver of hope saying we can make more money if we do X slipped in there. And the reality is, I think, would some people have been mad? Sure, maybe. They could have gone on and made like, we'll cap off like Doctor Strange's and Guardians of the Galaxy stories, or whatever, something like that. If they went out and said, like, no, we're just going to do this again, we'll have, like, another ultimate supervillain, but we're going to start again in a different Marvel, like, universe or whatever, and we're going to start by making a new Iron Man movie, or a new Captain America, or Spider-Man, or whatever. They're out of their fucking minds if they think that wasn't going to make money. That would make a fortune still, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, here's the thing, is like, the longer you keep this like interconnected universe or whatever, the more everyone's just gonna say, well, the new heroes aren't as good as the old ones or whatever. And it's like, well, no shit. It's like
they can't go back to the old ones,
exactly.
So they fucked themselves.
It's like Iron Man's gone. He's dead. Like he did the snap and saved everyone.
Like, I can just see myself wanting to go to a superhero movie in 2-3 years. And just having this list of movies and television shows that I need to all be caught up on in order to watch it, and just be like, fucking forget it. I'll go back and watch like Into the Spider-Verse or some bullshit. This is dumb.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Honestly, it's like, but they're really living up to the name of comic book movies, right? Because comic books come out every week, and it's just like, and it's just never ending, nonstop or whatever. So it's just like they're living up to that name. It's also why people think that superhero movies are kind of dying out, I feel like, at this point, or they're losing popularity. I think probably until like the next, like, I don't know,
Aquaman.
Well, I mean, Aquaman's not. Well, I was talking just Marvel, but like.
Yeah,
I mean, DC is its own worst enemy.
It really is.
It's so true. DC is its own worst enemy. It's not competing with Marvel at this point. It doesn't matter. They're their own worst enemy because they said, "Oh, well, the MCU is all about like cool heroes and like funny jokes and stuff like that. We're gonna have even cooler heroes, but we're gonna make them edgy because we're edgelords. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man.
I mean, DC has had some good movies recently. They had Batman,
yeah, but like,
and they have Aquaman, and well, Flash. That was
don't you dare say Flash was good.
No, it was not. It was a film that existed. I will give it that and nothing else.
Exactly. It was a movie that existed. We all forgot about it, and we can all move on because nobody wants to think about it.
Hey, we're getting another Robert Pattinson Batman, though. That's neat.
I don't know. I didn't really like the Batman, honestly. I think the thing with me was that I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I just didn't like it. It was like,
okay, that's fair.
Everyone said it was great. I watched it and I was just like, I feel like if it was like, I recently had a discussion with Billy about this. We were talking about this like last Sunday at the Rocks, and he was basically like saying it's like, oh, well, the reasons why I like this is because it highlights Batman as the world's greatest detective rather than an action hero. And I was like, all right, that's fair. I think because I look at it and I associate Batman too much with the Dark Knight, or like, I mean, like the old animated series, or like and stuff like that, where it was less about the detective part of it and it was more about the action-y part of it. Whereas this one's more of like, oh, he's the detective part of it and then the action hero second. I think that's partially it, as well as I don't know. It's just like the pacing is just so goddamn slow. It's just like, can we move on? That was where I was like half the time. I was just like, it was a 3-hour movie that I think could have been summed up in like 2 hours and 15 minutes, honestly. I think they could have cut 45 minutes of that, and I think it would have been much better.
Yeah. I can see that.
Like I said, just wasn't for me. Like, I'll probably end up going to watch the next Batman, but it's like I'm still sitting here going just like, I mean, it was. I'll probably end up saying the same thing. I was like, it wasn't bad. That wasn't for me. So that's how it was with that. I was like, and then Aquaman comes out later this year or whatever. This Aquaman sequel or whatever. I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe it'll do better than Shazam 2. Another movie I didn't see, but I kind of wanted to.
Same.
I hear it wasn't good. That's all I heard. That's all I heard. It was like that. It was like a shell of what the first one was, and it was just like, wow, that stinks.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's why I say is like DC is his own worst enemy, though. It's like it just tries too much to be heroes, but like darker and edgier and stuff like that. And I'm just like, all right, screw off. Like there's a reason there's a reason why I like the Aquaman. It's not because it's like it's like it was edgy or whatever. It told like the sort of origin story of Aquaman. It was like and like
it was dumb in a fun way.
It was dumb in a fun way because like halfway through the movie, it was just like, I can't wait for the enemy to come blasting through the wall or whatever, because that's what the entirety of every action scene starts with a guy blasting through the wall. And 3, 2, 1, and poosh, and you're just like, I fucking knew it. I fucking called it. It's just really funny that I was just like, I remember at one point in the movie while I was watching, I was like, I literally started to count down in my head. I was like 3, 2, and then boom, and I'm like, I fucking knew it.
Aquaman was great.
It was, and then like the end when he got the trident or whatever, and he had like his like classic looking like suit or whatever. I was like, oh, that was great. Honestly, I think that was probably my favorite part of the movie. Yeah. It's just like him just getting the trident coming out of the waterfall or whatever and slamming it down. And I was just like, all right, that was fucking cool. I'll admit to that. That was pretty cool. I feel like there was too much drama that came out of the second one. Not that the first one didn't have its dramas.
Yeah. I do think if they make Aquaman 3, Amber Heard definitely isn't going to be a part of it. I think she's getting rightfully blasted by Hollywood.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like the same thing with like Shazam. It's like I thought Shazam, the first Shazam, was really good. because it was like it's kind of again it's like it's what because when you think of like comic book like movies or you think like superhero movies, it's like there's always like three things it's got to have. It's got to have in my mind it has to have a good villain. It needs to have okay. I should say I'm gonna put an asterisk next to that one. Either a good villain or a good hero, or like especially when it comes to hero origin stories, it's like I think the hero origin story can overshadow the villain, but oftentimes it's the villain that makes the hero. In my mind, because if the villain is a really good villain, then the hero needs to rise even higher than that. And then there needs to be cool action set pieces, and mixed in with either some dark or light undertones, or even a mix of both. And I thought Shazam did that because it was like, oh, they're kind of like, especially like early on in the movie, they're like, oh, he gets like the Shazam powers, and then he's like, all right, what powers do I have or whatever, and he's like literally just like, I'm bulletproof or whatever, and he's like, all right, I can fly now, and then he just like. And it's just like, it was kind of funny. It's literally how you would expect a kid who suddenly got superpowers to act. It's just like, it's like, what are my powers? I don't know. Let's just try all the ones like the laser eyes, and like, flying and whatever. And it's like that, like it's what you'd expect from it. And then it just goes like, oh, now I finally found my mom though. And it's like, and you realize that, oh, the image that he had of his mom, where she was this like. Perfect, like this perfect mom type thing that like just lost the son or whatever, but like never found her, whatever. And it's like she was actually just a struggling mom who was struggling to afford other things and make a better life. And when she realized that, oh, now that he's with the cops, maybe I could just leave and maybe he'll have a better life as a result of that. And I went, yikes. But
fuck,
that's a tough decision. I wouldn't even begin to know how to make that one. So it's like, but it's like that. But it was it had all three of those things, and I thought that's what makes a good one or whatever. And it's like sometimes when the comedy or whatever kind of overshadows the hero, or maybe even like just feels so out of place. Like that was the thing of what was like the Thor Love and Thunder as well. It's like everyone just said the comedy was too distracting from everything else, or was such forced comedy it just didn't land correctly. That was always the biggest complaint I heard about that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone always has their interpretations of ones, but I was like, if I had to plant like what are the three things I look for in a superhero movie, it's like those are the three things I look for. But I guess video game movies are just taking over that, right? And that's the next big thing. That's what everyone says, at least.
Those are so much better. No cinematic universes. As long as we don't get a Smash Brothers universe.
But wait, weren't they sort of setting up the Smashverse, or maybe potentially setting up a Smashverse or something like that?
Let's just not, let's not do
like,
that.
It sounds cool, but I'm just like, the sheer amount of just like,
it sounds cool. The movie would be crap. Let's be honest with each other. The movie would be horrible.
Nintendo would just want to like say, hey, we don't want to show any like actual violence here, so we can't hit any of the swords people in there or anything like that. And also all those like third party people we have in Smash, like like Cloud or whatever. It's like, yeah, Sora. It's like can't put any of those in there, and it's just like, oh man.
And then it'd just be a bunch of Nintendo characters fighting a giant hand. For some bullshit reason. It would be a crap movie. I get people think they want that. They don't.
You think you want it, but you don't.
What was the best campaign in Smash history? The Subspace Emissary? Do you honestly think for a second that would be a good cinematic film?
Probably not.
Well, there you go.
I don't know. I was just like, it's like people always say, it's like writing for a video game is so different from writing for a movie, because it's like you have to explain plot as you go along, whereas especially in a game like Smash, when it comes to the Subspace Embassy, it's like you just have little scenarios and then you just fight it. That's it. That's all you do. And it's like now trying to make a story out of that, or at least something similar to it. I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, so just you can make not superhero video game movies. Maybe not do a Smash Brothers one.
Like I think a Legend of Zelda will be hard enough. Because I think that the reason I say that is because the number one thing is you got to have Link talk. And it's like, I guess you could just do that, but it's like, I don't know, just it just feels weird.
Like, who would you cast as Link?
I don't know who you can just have the voice actor who does the
So Bird.
I don't know. Is that who does that? Who does that voice anyway?
There, sure. Chris Pine can be, or Ryan Gosling can be Link from The Legend of Zelda. We picked Ryan Gosling for this role because he's so cool.
Right?
He was Ken in Barbie, so he's obviously qualified to be Link from The Legend of Zelda. Out of all the actors I'm going to, talk shit about, I'm never going to talk shit about Ryan Gosling.
Fair.
He's always so good in everything that he's in, basically.
Just looks like a bunch of people have kind of done it, but it's like, I mean, granted,
Yeah.
you don't really it's not really a voice, considering he never talks. It's more of just the sounds.
So they'd probably just get some random bullshit, famous celebrity actor to do it. Like Chris Pine or Ryan Gosling.
We'll get Justin Bieber to do it.
No, they will not. Let's jokes aside, he's not. I don't think he's relevant as a musician or an actor. What?
He is not at his height of his popularity anymore.
No, it hasn't been since I was in high school.
Yup. And that's a good thing.
Gee, okay.
I don't know. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think back to all the celebrities when I was growing up. It's all of them kind of turned out to be crazy or just assholes. So it's you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
Do you think after Alan Wake 2 they're going to make an Alan Wake movie?
No, I'll be honest. I don't ever see them making an Alan Wake movie.
Yeah, probably not.
The thing I've always liked about Remedy is that they've always taken full advantage of the fact that what they are making is a video game. So they have great stories and stuff like that, but they can take certain elements of a video game and then turn it up to 11. So it's okay, so we can do so much more lighting with more lighting on the 360 and PS3. Let's take that and make it a core game mechanic. Was essentially a big part of the first Alan Wake. If you go look at this sequel, Quantum Break, they basically took their slow-mo mechanic from Max Payne and they did a bunch of neat, interesting stuff with that. With Control, they did a whole bunch of different stuff with in-game physics and creating all these different particle effects and chunks, and it's really cool. And I think Remedy has always been more interested in let's see what we can do with this medium, not just in terms of storytelling, but how can we push gameplay to new and different heights. And that's what I've always liked about Remedy.
Yeah, it's kind of just oh, we could just do an Alan Wake 2, but make it the same as the first, basically. But it's no, let's do something else. Let's do something different,
Yeah.
And I was I always love when it's creative like that. So I agree with you on that one. You ever had a chance to play much of the second game yet?
Not yet, no.
I was curious if you were able to start Alan Wake 2 or not.
I haven't yet. Please don't spoil it.
I mean, I haven't played it either, so we both know nothing.
Okay.
So it's I'm still trying to finish Spider-Man. I was I think I'm about halfway through, so hopefully I can finish that by soonish. Soonish. I'm surprised. I was like, as much as I kind of just like scroll through like social media or whatever. I mean, granted, it's not a lot, and I think that what helps is that I'm not on TikTok or anything like that because it seems like that's where a majority of spoilers ever seem to come out of.
Yeah,
but it's like I haven't gotten spoiled on any games. Like I didn't play the original like FF7 remake until like what is it, a full year after it was out or whatever. I had no spoilers on it whatsoever. And
that's
I was just
awesome.
Like, and so I was like, when the big reveal at the end happened, oh, I was so fucking ecstatic. I was so fucking excited. I'm so excited for that game, for that game as well. It's like that's probably, I don't think, do they have an actual release date for Rebirth at this point?
I think we do. It's in what, like 100 days or so?
That's right. They did announce it. Yeah, February 29th. That's right. Yeah, because it comes out like, because Reloaded comes out at the beginning of that month, and I'm like, well, I guess I got a month to play Persona 3 Reloaded, and then and then 7 Rebirth comes out.
Bold of them to release this only 28 days after Bloodborne cart releases.
Bloodborne card?
So you know how there's this game dev that basically remade all of Bloodborne in like PS1 graphics?
Yeah.
He made Bloodborne Kart. A Bloodborne karting game.
I guess I can't be too surprised on that one. Yeah, I guess I won't be too surprised on that one.
This is a real thing.
All right, I'm on board on that one. Do you think Elden Ring will have its own karting game eventually?
If this guy ever decides to remake Elden Ring in PS1 graphics, which I'm not sure he ever will, because I'm guessing that was a huge undertaking by itself,
I'm
basically
sure
remaking all of Bloodborne. Imagine trying to remake all of Elden Ring. It's like, no. Imagine. I mean, I think it'd be fucking dope if FromSoft wanted to make a karting game. I don't think that'll ever happen, though.
I could not imagine, like, all of a sudden. Yeah, I couldn't imagine it was like they'd ever want to do something like that.
Or they release a trailer for like Super Smash Bros. Tomorrow. Sad part is I would buy that. I would absolutely buy that. Have you heard about what's going on over at Bungie?
A little bit, yeah. I was kind of looking into that recently. Tis the season, I guess, because everyone. I remember seeing a subreddit post of, what was it? It was like explain to me like I'm 5 or something like that. Like them talking, like people asking us like, so why are all these like video game and like tech like companies like laying off all these people or whatever, considering they're still making like record profits or anything like that? And it's like, and with the Bungie like layoffs, it's like that further delay is like the big Destiny expansion as well as Marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, why do all this? And it's like, it's because they hired so many damn people during the pandemic and now they don't see the need for them, I guess, or that payroll is just too high at this point, so they're trying to cut costs.
I suppose so. The fact that they're letting go some of their like veteran like lead game developers though,
or the release of composer, that was the one that astounded me. That I sat there going, just like, you're really gonna let go of the main composer, the composer that's done basically every soundtrack from every expansion and in both games. Yikes!
Like I'm sure they need to cut costs somewhat, but when you look at all the money that's been going around over at Bungie and at Sony, you can't. Lightfall didn't do amazing, but it still made hundreds of millions of dollars. And I get these game companies can be expensive to run, but I just do not believe that they didn't have the capital already to keep those people around. I do not believe that.
Especially like you were saying, like some of the veteran staff too. It's like these are the guys that helped make this game or whatever, like what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't. I'll just never understand. It's like I get. It's like okay, you bring in some people or whatever to like some like contracted people or whatever to help finish out a game or whatever, and after their contract is done, they hope to either be picked up for another year or for however long,
Yeah,
and continue either working for that or potentially shooting for a full-time job. Not re-signing those people, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, you're a contract worker, so you kind of expect that you're probably only really going to last this contract or whatever, and then be done.
A lot of the people that were laid off though were full-time employees.
And I was getting to that, and I was like, but this was not that case. That I was like, this was like, I just, I mean, yeah, it's just like it just doesn't, it dumbfounds me.
From what I heard, a lot of it came down to a lot of the more senior staff was like, what we're doing with Lightfall and what we need to do to secure the future of this game we're not doing. Here's what we should do. Some execs were like, no, we want to do this instead. It ended up being unhealthy for the game. And because they were like, oh, player retention is down, we need to cut staff in order to make some of these costs back.
Question for you. Now, obviously, we don't know this answer, but we're just speculating here. Okay. Do you think this was a Sony
clarify?
Move?
I should clarify that was speculation.
We're all speculating here. Everything that we're saying is all just speculation here. We know absolutely nothing about what's going on behind the scenes or whatever. So I want to ask you: do you think this was a Sony move on to Bungie?
They're reporting it's now. Just give me a second. They're reporting that it's purely Bungie right now. I have a hard time believing that they didn't consult with Sony at least before doing this. So I think in part, sort of, but it's a little hard to tell. I don't think Sony was the driving force behind it, though. No, at least me personally.
It's sometimes hard to tell, though, isn't it? Though it's like you want to believe it wasn't. It wasn't like Sony or anything like that, or what? Maybe it was a joint collection or whatever. Considering that when they bought Bungie, they were like, "All right, we're gonna have you just make your own things, to do your own things," type deal. And then all of a sudden now it's like, "Hey, you like Destiny is down or whatever right now, so we need you to like." Lay off some people or whatever. We trust you on how it goes to doing that. It's like you don't want to believe it was that, but
part of you has to believe there was some involvement there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised like. Again, obviously we don't know, but it's like I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden like I don't know who the president of Bungie or whoever's the main leader at Bungie over there got a call from high up Sony person saying, "Hey, we noticed that you have a lot of staff or whatever, and it's going to be a while before you can release anything. So we need you to like just tone it down here a little bit." You don't want to believe that, but
yeah, it probably also doesn't help that apparently playtesting for Marathon did not go super well.
Yeah.
Apparently, they had a bunch of like escape for since it's mimicking the Tarkov style. They had a bunch of like escape from Tarkov players playtesting the game, and they were all asked like, if Marathon released tomorrow, would you guys play it? And apparently, no one raised their hands.
I mean, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a lot of stuff is going on over at Bungie, and none of it's good right now. We can only hope they turn things around, and I don't know. I hope all these game devs that now are out of a job can find something.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst part, man. It's like all these people just have no source of income right now. And it's happening right before the holiday season.
Oh yeah, like that is the worst part about it, is like all this happens right before, like we just got done with Halloween. Now Thanksgiving's like not that far, and not before that, long before that, it's like people are gonna have to think it's like, oh, now I should probably do like Christmas shopping and
imagine
like
how
that.
imagine how the remaining employees are feeling over there. It's like if senior staff members are this expendable, like how secure is my job really?
Yeah, how secure is like, that person that just got hired or whatever to work on Marathon or something like that. Like I can't imagine they'd be feeling too good after that.
I mean, I mean, if I was working at Bungie right now, like on top of the people that just left, I'd be looking to leave real quick.
Yeah, I mean
Maybe that's just a me issue.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree with you. It really is. It's like if they don't value like that experience, it's like, well, I literally just started working on this game. Like these guys have worked on the game since Destiny 1. Some of them did, and they're expendable. Man, I don't know. Just feels like a not great move on many levels.
Yeah.
So, and it's like we're not business experts or anything like that, but it's like just from a pure like what we would anticipate employees would probably feel like, or it's like
From a purely human perspective.
from a purely human perspective, yeah, exactly. It's like I couldn't. I'd be like, yeah,
I couldn't imagine morale being super high. Yeah.
I know this is like just the year of layoffs basically for when it comes to the video game industry, which is not new. Same thing with tech industry. It's not new that these types of things happen. It's like tends to be when like big projects are happening that after those projects are done, you'll see a lot of the staff being cut or stuff like that. So it's not like uncommon of not, but it's like I think I result a lot. I result a lot of this during like the pandemic time. It's like there were so many people being brought on to projects to like either because there was so many more people needed to work on these projects, and now that these projects are now all released, they were just saying, well, it's like, why do we still have these people? Like, let's downsize. Let's be the capitalistic assholes or whatever, and just put a bunch of people out of their jobs. Like, it's also really interesting when you think about it. It's like in America, you can like give basically no notice for when it comes to like laying off people or whatever. But it's like you go to pretty much anywhere else in the world, it's like, oh, you gotta have at least like 2 weeks off before, like 2 weeks before I, like there's certain protocols that need to be upheld when it comes to laying off people. And
when you combine that with a lot of businesses still having a non-competitive clause,
yeah, that's
with
it.
them, it's like, yeah, we're going to fire you, and not only are we going to fire you, we're going to make it so that you can't work for our competition.
For like, isn't it like a certain amount of time too? It's like that goes for. So it's like if you want,
I think it's like 2 months most places.
Yeah. It's
So have fun not working for a couple months.
yup.
Hopefully you don't lose your fucking house.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little emotional there.
No, you're good. No, I was like, yeah, no, you're absolutely like, you're absolutely right.
Do you have like an equivalent game that Alan Wake is for me? Do you have a singular game that where you played it for the first time and you were just like, I get it now. Like this is what, like, what I want basically every game to be like.
I mean, I think that was me in like Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. Like, honestly, it's like that's what it was for me. It was like not so much the gameplay wise, but when it
Mm-hmm.
came to intricate storytelling and creating a character basically from nothing, and then going to the end of the game where he just goes like, "Oh, you basically like fight to the bitter end," and he dies, and I'm just like, the emotional ties that you create with that character in under like 20 hours is insane. I don't know. That's what I always say about the mystique of Crisis Core, and it's like if you've never played Crisis Core or Crisis Core Reunion, both are equally fantastic. It's like the number one thing you always get from it is that you always will end up relating to Zack in some way or another, and that makes the ending of the game hit that much harder because it's like he's just like he literally wanted, like it was like, oh, he's like some stupid kid who joined Soldier because he worked with it. He got like the surgery to be like Mako infused or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then midway through the game, his like the mentor or what, like his mentor Angeal basically was like, hey, they're being Soldier isn't all it's cracked up to be, man, and you have to remember that. And it's like, it's okay, it's good to be strong, but you have to remember what you're fighting for. It's like that's what he called his honor in a way. So it was like, I'm fighting for what I think is right, and it's like, even if that means like early on in the game he leaves Soldier
Mm-hmm.
to try and save his friend because he believed it was the right thing to do, because he believed at that point he was a monster because Soldier had made him into a monster, or Shinra, I guess, more made him into a monster because of his upbringing and the experiments done on his mother.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, and like when he dies, he basically imparts all that into Zack, and Zack just literally like goes off. And this is why I say is like, play Reunion, because it's literally just expanded story of the first game. Because there's like, after Angeal dies, there is an inner monologue that Zack has between between that time where Angeal dies and then like when you start playing again, because time has passed. Not really, I don't think it's said how much time passes, but it's definitely like years probably. And in that time, he was saying it was just like, what is was like do, because like they don't talk, like the Soldier Project doesn't talk about Genesis, it doesn't talk about Angeal, it doesn't talk about even Director Lazard, who had basically left the organization after they found out that he had been siphoning money off to try and like create create the perfect thing that was going to destroy Shinra, because he hated Shinra even though he worked for Shinra. Crazy underlying story there, but it's like it's like literally Zack says like, is this how little Soldier thinks of us? Like, are we just cogs in a wheel and stuff like that? Are we just soldiers ready to be killed and then forgotten?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's just like, and then he like later goes on, it's like talks about how you have to protect your soldier honor, and then he adds that into there as well. It's like, well, what does soldier honor really mean? And he spends a good chunk of the second half of the game asking himself that question. It's like, what is soldier's honor? What is that thing that I am protecting? I don't even know what it is anymore, or I forgot what it was. It wasn't until Zack goes back to, I think it was Nibelheim, when he meets up with Cloud again, because Cloud asks him the same question that Angeal once asked Angeal, of, because Angeal had the Buster Sword, and he goes, "I've never actually seen you use that sword." It's like, and then he just goes, he's like, "Use means wear, tear, and rust, and that's a real waste." And it's like, really, that's the reason you don't use that sword? And it's like. And he goes, yeah, it can be pretty cheap, but only then later on do you find out that the whole reason he doesn't use the sword is because he doesn't want to tarnish it, because it represents its honor. So if he tarnishes the sword, it's like he tarnishes his honor in a way. And it's like, so him not using the sword means that he keeps his honor intact. He only used it in specific moments to protect his honor in a way. And there was like early on in the moments where Zack kind of fucks up or whatever against an enemy, and you look like, and things are going to get real bad, and Gio comes flying in, using the Buster Sword, cuts the monster in half, and then Zack goes like, oh, I'm sorry if you got any wear, tear, or rust on your sword or whatever, and then Angel goes, you're a little bit more important than my sword, but just a little bit. And so it's it's just deep interconnected, and it's like right in that moment when Zack comes back to Nibelheim and reconnects with Cloud, he literally goes like, Zack Cloud literally asking that same question. He's like, I've never actually seen you use that sword. Why don't you ever use it? And then he remembers to what Angeal once told him. It's like, cause that thing, and he just goes, oh yeah, I almost forgot. Thanks, Cloud, for reminding me why I actually carry the sword, what soldier honor truly means. And it's just like, and then he just like he perks up. He does a few squats or whatever, and then goes to bed. And Cloud's just going like, what the fuck just happened? But it's just like it's that level of like storytelling. I think it's what I've always tried to measure up to in games, and why I think that games that have truly unique stories or deep storytelling in such a short game too. It's like when I say you can beat Crisis Core, like the original Crisis Core, in 20 hours, I'm not joking on that. Like I think that's like pretty much the actual time you're going to be probably spending on it if you don't do like a bunch of side quests and messing around with the materia and stuff. But it's like,
that's not long for a video game at all.
It is amazing to me how quickly, though, you can fall in love with Zack and like fall in love with these characters, and just go, and at the end when he dies, and you're just sitting here going like, you're fucking bawling. I remember when I beat Crisis Core for the first time, because I had not played Final Fantasy VII to that point. I had not done that, so I had no idea Zack was going to die in the end. So when he dies, and I was just like, I'm sitting there fucking bawling. I was just like, holy hell. I did not think I cared about this much about a character that doesn't exist, you know? Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. I was like, even in like Reunion, it was like the whole scene after like Zack like loses Angeal, and Angeal hands him the Buster Sword, and it's like, this is for you type. And it's just like, God damn, I still fucking cried that scene. That I was like, I knew it was coming, and I still cried. It was so good. Oh, I'm so excited for Rebirth.
Really? I couldn't tell.
I know. And then it's just then it's like, because now it's like especially with the remake and a Reunion, and then like Rebirth, it's like 7 is opening up new doors, which I never thought were ever going to be opened ever. Ever. And that's why I think myself and a lot of people are very excited for that game, and we just want to see more about it. That's why I think that sometimes I think it's partially why I kind of like 16 a lot too. It was like it is astounding to me how fast you can go from early on in the game. Clive is basically just like he's like the firstborn of Rosaria, and he was like should have been the next in line to be the king, but because the Phoenix did not choose him, he was basically placed below or whatever. And then he had another brother, and Joshua then was blessed with the Phoenix and became the dominant of the Phoenix. And so he was crowned next, but that didn't really deter Clive when he was younger. He was like, he just wanted to support Joshua the whole time, so that's why he became his shield and got the blessings of the Phoenix. And then like the whole attack happens, he loses everything. He thinks Joshua's died. And like Rosaria is all basically like dominated by the Empire. And it's just like, then Clive goes from like this kind of like, oh, a lot of hope, like young kid or whatever, to like, oh, now I'm in my mid-20s and I've fucking lost everything, and the only thing I care about is now finding revenge for the killer that killed my brother. So it's like, it's different undertones. And then it like goes from that to, it's like, oh, realizing that revenge wasn't always the answer. It was what he really wanted was to try and create a better world for everyone. And he does that in multitude of ways. And then Sid, or whatever, I was like, I could talk about 16 for forever, but it's just like Sid was the number one driving thing that happened there, because Sid came around and basically just said, hey, you know, we could create a better world, us dominants together, and if we just work towards that goal. And he's just like, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but like, we need to destroy the mother crystals. Like, it's just, they're sapping all the aether from the world and creating the blight. It's like, which is, you find out later on in the game, is only about half true. And it's like, but it's like, oh, it makes sense or whatever. And then, but it's like, then he dies after you do the first like mother crystal, and it just like, it is a heart-wrenching scene that like, it's like that character left such an impression onto Clive that he basically takes the Sid the Outlaw name and he just becomes Sid the Outlaw, and it's great. For as much as people will fucking complain about 16, it was phenomenal. I don't care what anyone has to say about it. It was a phenomenal game, and my pick for winning this game of the year.
Okay.
It was a lot of me rambling about a lot of stuff.
I mean, yeah, but I completely understand. The question I asked completely prompted that.
Oh, yeah. I'm also just like a sucker for like lovable characters that might not always be lovable at the start. It's like, it's like I look back at some of my favorite games of all times, and what is the one thing that they always have in common? It's like either a redemption story, or they start out as kind of like assholes and become like, you know, the actual heroes that they were meant to be. And that's why I always kind of find it interesting. It's like, I mean, here's a game we haven't talked about in a while, but Forspoken. I was like, everyone always. I will always defend Forspoken. I do not believe it was as bad as everyone thinks it was. I honestly played the entirety of it, and I thought it was actually pretty good. Not the greatest, but like enjoyable. And so I was just like, but the number one thing everyone always says is like, oh, Frey is literally just out for herself at the beginning. It's like, because that's all she's known in her entire life. No one's ever believed in her. You know, it's like no one has ever like stood up or made life easier for her. It's like she was abandoned by her mother, or at least she thought she was, or whatever. And then like her mother, like her parents didn't want her and stuff like that. And so she's trying to find the one glimmer of hope that she's always had in this world, where it's like, oh, you know, get out of New York, make enough money to get out of New York with her cat, and then leave, because New York is just a hellhole. And then she like gets traveled to this other world. And then it's only to find out, oh, she's actually from this world. Like she was born here, and like, and all this stuff like that. And it's like, and it's when she actually gets her first moments of actual kindness from a character that doesn't know her in any way, shape, or form. Literally saves her from like execution and all these things, that she goes like, she still kind of has like that, like, hey, I'm just kind of in it for myself. I just want to go home. I want to go see my cat. I don't want to be here.
She starts turning around, though, is the thing.
Well, it's like, it takes a while, because like, again, she just, it's a shield that you have when, you know, life continuously puts you down and you don't have anyone to build you up. You build that wall, and it's hard to bring down that wall, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing, that especially like that first part of when that happens, it was like, it wasn't till the first attack by one of the Tantas that she saw what was wrought. And even though she would kill the first Tanta out of vengeance, because a character, like a young girl that actually took an interest in her and looked up to her, like, that she liked, ended up dying as a result of the Tanta's attack, that she was like, she goes out of revenge. And then at the end, even then, she still has her shield up. She still is on guard. She still just wants to go home. She's like, I'm not here to be a savior. I'm not here to be a hero. I just wanted revenge for the one girl, and I still want to go home more than anything in this world. So it's not till after that, until another character dies, which is, I think, I forget the main girl that like helps you for the majority of the game, but it's like you find her dad early on in the game, and he's like somehow still alive, but like doesn't have much time left or whatever. And it's like once he dies, she basically snaps at her, basically saying how selfish she's been up to this point, and like even though she's been pretty accepting of it to this point, that she just explodes at one point. It's like, you're just out for yourself. So if you want to go home, then fine. Leave us all to die. I don't give a fuck. And then they kind of just have like their little argument or whatever. She leaves. Frey leaves and or whatever. And it's not until like later on when the city is then attacked again that she realizes, oh, I do make a difference. Like, I do inspire hope. Like, it's literally all these people have left. And then does that facade kind of crumble when she sees so much of these people giving up so much of themselves for other people and believing and just starting to believe that. And then when you start seeing that softer side of Frey come out, and then towards the end when she actually becomes the hero. And it's like, it just feels like not enough people got to that point where she made that flip. She made that turn towards being a better person and doing the right thing, not for selfish reasons, but just to help for helping's sake. You know, like what you would expect a hero to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I think the story is that great? No. There was one moment where I was just like, whoa, I actually didn't see that coming, so that was pretty cool. But it was like, it was okay. It was just that a lot of people just could not get past the dialogue, could not get past the character of Frey. But I sit here going, just like, you can't judge a cover by its book. You cannot play just the first 2 hours of a game and decide it's bad.
Judge a book by its cover.
What did I say?
You said you can't judge a cover by its book.
Whatever, close enough. Close enough. But yeah, you get my point. It's just like, you can't judge it by the first 2 hours of the game. It's like you have to play the whole thing. It's like, it's really that. Like, there's so many games that are like that, and I feel like there's so many games that have suffered from that in the past few years that I just go, man, I really liked that game. I don't know what people fucking hated about it.
I mean, I will say, to play devil's advocate here, that I think first impressions do matter in a video game. That's like, not... I do think it's important to play more of it and get a good feel for it before you put something down and call it crap, though.
I agree. Because it's like, you need to get people hooked. You need to give them a reason to care. And I will say that was probably the biggest weakness of Forspoken that it had, is that it took a while to get to the point where you actually cared. Or at least strong. So it's like, because like the beginning part of the game is, when you just have the one power, is kind of boring.
Yeah.
So I'll just go like, once you get the fire powers though from the first Tanta, it's like, then the game gets a lot better, because it's like you have more abilities, you have more powers to work with. So it's like, even just from purely like gameplay perspective, it's like it doesn't get better until about that until you get the second powers. So, but then once you get to like the late game or whatever, then there's like a whole bunch of different combinations of like powers you can have, and I'm just like, wow, this is actually like kind of interesting, and we're actually pretty well thought out.
Realistically, looking back at Forspoken, I do think it fell into that rough camp where it's a great game, or at least a good game, that has a rough opening. Final Fantasy 13 suffered from a similar fate, I think, where a lot of people just couldn't get over that one. Another great example is Last of Us 2. After Joel dies, people just couldn't get over that, so they put that away and just stopped playing it. it's fully possible for a game to get better later. There are just so many people that don't want to play through those initial impressions, though.
I will
They
say,
just get.
I will say, when it comes to especially like the Joel dying at the beginning of Last of Us Part 2, it's like I equivalent that to like the Telltale's like Walking Dead. Like if if all of a sudden that season 1 happens and like Lee and Clementine walk away from it somehow, and then like the first chapter, it's like, hey Clem, I can't continue on. You're gonna have to kill me type thing because I can't continue on. I'm like, bruh, really? Come on, man. It's like you could like ending the first season with like Lee's death. I was like hit so much harder. And it's like I couldn't imagine them like saying, "Oh, it's like, oh yeah, let's just do this for season 2." No, don't do that. it's like I'm so glad they did not do that because, good God, it is like I could not imagine them doing that because it takes so much away from the first game, and then like just starts the second season off so badly, so poorly. So I don't know. That's what I always do it, and it's like in the case of Final Fantasy 13, it's like it was kind of a little bit of everything at that point because the gameplay wasn't. The 13 had a lot wrong with it because the characters themselves at first impressions were not good, especially Snow. Writing was rough, and it's like, and the gameplay was basically non-existent in that game because it's like all you really had to do was hit X the whole game, and you could basically win like that because the auto battle was actually pretty good. So there was that, and then like, yeah, it was hard. It's hard to overcome those two hurdles. So it's like, I don't blame people for not loving 13, but it's like once you get past those hurdles, the story's actually pretty fucking cool, and the characters turn around a lot. I'm trying to think. I was like, I was like. A lot of people say like I remember seeing like a subreddit post not that long ago of like people saying it's like, oh, disappointing games of 2023, and it was like, you know, Forspoken, a couple other games like Gollum, Kong, the stupid Kong game or whatever, and then also in there, which I thought was kind of weird, was like Starfield, because everyone like literally every person I've heard play Starfield absolutely loves it. But it seems like a good, maybe this is the stupid like minority or whatever, just like the really loud minority of people that just didn't like Starfield or whatever. But it's like they put it in that, and I sat there going just like, I don't know. Everyone just says Starfield was great.
For what, worst game of the year?
Yeah, like disappointing games of the year or something like that, or like
I wouldn't put Starfield in that category at all.
That's what I said too, and I sat there going like, what? I was like, disappointments. I'm like, I thought people like pretty much universally love Starfield. It's like, yeah, it's not the game for everyone, but it's like,
I'll admit the game does have some problems. To call it a disappointment though is, I don't know. I think that's hugely inaccurate.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if you go back and look at Starfield's marketing, the game is basically everything that Bethesda said it would be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a game that people are going to play for like a decade or whatever, but
I think this is a moment where the game had too much hype for it. Like it was to the point where it had too much hype for it, to the point where no matter what it was, certain people were going to be disappointed regardless.
Yeah. I agree with that completely.
It's the Cyberpunk all over again. It's like, I get that game did not release off the bat off in a great state. You play it now, I hear it's actually very, very good. So I just sit here going just like, I think it was just hype killed it. There was too much excitement for it going in, and I also think it was just people who want to jump on a hype train. They want to be excited for this game, even though they know it's not their type of game. Like it's like me. It's like I think Starfield is a good game. But I've never played it, and I don't really care to play it because it's not my type of game. But I'm not going to say it's a bad game. It's just not for me. So I'm just sitting here going, just like I can't call it a disappointment if considering I've never played it, or if I've only played a couple hours of it, considering it's a long game. So I don't know. I just thought that I was the same way with you. I was like, to put it in disappointing games, that's not right. Like that, no.
Man, that's got to be a little depressing for the Bethesda employees that spent the last 10 years working on this game.
Yeah, they put like their heart and soul into the game and everything like that. It's just like it's really like what I said. It's like it's just people were so like wanted to jump on that hype train because so many for their friends were like there too. I don't know. It's kind of like what it was like when with like I remember like when For Honor first launched or whatever. People were so excited for Honor because it was a new type of fighting game in a way. But then people actually played it and were just like, "Well, this is a disappointment." It's like I feel like you just jumped on this game because it was hyped up, not because you were actually interested in playing the game. And I feel like so many of these like so many big AAA games, especially highly anticipated AAA games, oftentimes that happens. Is that people jump on just to jump on, and even though it's like not their favorite type of game.
With Starfield, one of the complaints I remember hearing is like, oh, well, all the planets are so empty. There's only so many different types of outposts that you can find out in space and stuff like that. And it's like, did you expect them to populate every single planet? Like, I get it. At the same time, you don't need to go to every single planet in Starfield, which... And it's like, yeah, some of the planets are going to be kind of empty. There's not going to be that much stuff to do. A lot of it's making your own fun. A lot of people will happily praise No Man's Sky for just being... Well, I should say, No Man's Sky did come out first, obviously, but it's like... The two games are very similar in that aspect. It's like, yeah, the planets are empty and there's not a whole lot to do. Make stuff to do, basically.
Well, it's... I think back to when I was listening to... I think it was an episode of Play, Watch, Listen where they were talking about... Especially because, you know, Alana's a video game writer, so she kind of like... just kind of explaining like how she writes stuff, or how generally like game writers kind of work, is that you have to write a story or write a certain thing to play how you would expect normal players to play, or the average person to play it. Nowhere in Bethesda's thinking were they thinking that there's going to be some person that goes to every planet in the history of this game. Or like
100%.
And it's just like it's just going to be that like very few people of like that will just do that or whatever. And they have every right to do that. Like if they want to play the game like that, they can play the game like that. That's fine. But it's just like know that this how you're playing the game is probably not the optimal way of playing a game. It's or how they expected you or how they wanted you to play the game.
Yeah.
And this, and I oftentimes think that when it comes to open world games, this is the thing that tends to happen a lot of times, where they put all these things in here, and then they don't expect you to do everything. They don't expect you to like start with this or go with that or whatever, even though you could if you wanted to. And it's like, it's oftentimes why I say to myself, it's like, this is why I appreciate open world games for what they are, but when there's no direction being had inside of the open world game, that it gets diluted. There needs to be direction when it comes to these types of games, because if there's no direction, then it's just chaos, and you're going to end up having a worse experience in the open world, and oftentimes hate it. Not saying that's the case with Starfield, but I've definitely seen it in more than one occasion.
I understand what you're getting at, though. Yeah.
Sometimes when I look at like Breath of the Wild or even like Tears of the Kingdom, it's like I just don't feel like there's a ton of directions. It like opens the world for you and then just says, "Have at it. However you want to do it, you do it." And I'm just like, okay. And some people really like that, and I'm just not one of them. Have you ever been like a big fan of like those sandbox like type games, like Gmod or something like that?
I'll be honest, not really.
Same. I don't know.
It's like the one that I've been consistently interested in, just like jumping into, is No Man's Sky. But that's purely for the thrill of just like going to different planets and stuff like that. I don't actually want to do any of what the game wants me to do, basically.
And then it's like,
I'd probably pick it up, play it for like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours, put it down, and then never play it again. It's just not my thing.
The closest like sandbox type game that I was really interested in, or at least was like I could play for like good period of time, was probably Minecraft. Honestly, it was like years ago.
That
like
game's a lot of fun, yeah.
And I think that part of it is that, and I think that's why like a lot of people, it's like, oh, if you play I was about to say Starfield. If you play Minecraft today, it's like you're often going to be playing with mods. And I was like, agreed, because you want to be able to do stuff, you know? It's like stuff that you've never done before. It's like I couldn't imagine somebody playing Minecraft for like the past 10 years and not playing with at least one mod on. It's like you would be playing the base game, the vanilla Minecraft, for 10 years. I think I'd lose my damn mind.
I've never understand all these content creators that will only like tailor their content towards one game. It's like, I'm gonna play GTA and only GTA, or Minecraft and only Minecraft. I just couldn't do that. I'd go insane.
I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It's like I get like bouts where I'm like all about a game or something like that, and I'll play the crap out of it, but it's like eventually I'm gonna say, all right, I'm done with this now. I'm good. You know? Like I can just take a break and maybe I'll come back to it after a certain time and feel a lot better about it. So that was me in like college when I was playing League. It was just like I had played League for like 2 years or whatever, playing with friends, like almost like at least a game every day. And I was just so tired of it after a while. I was just like, holy shit. And I was like, there are people who do this for 8+ hours a day, like every day. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. There are so many like amazing games that come out constantly that I was just like,
that's the thing.
You have no reason to play the same game over and over again. It's just, there's no reason. You can have your favorites. That's fine. I'm not saying you can't just go, I feel like booting up League of Legends and playing like a couple games here or there. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But I was like, but man, to do the same thing
over and over and over. I think I said this on our older podcast at one point, but there are more great experiences out there in the ether, like so many that we will never in our lifetimes be able to experience all of them, and more are coming out every single day. So to dedicate just that much time to just one of them is such a huge waste. You're denying yourself so much by doing that.
So many great stories, so many great games, so many, like you said, experiences that it's just like broaden the horizon, please.
Man, we really did not spend very much time on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
No, that's fine.
It pivoted really quickly towards Marvel, and then it just went off the rails from there.
We said what we wanted to say about it, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like you said, like at the beginning, it was like it's hard to pass judgment on a movie like this because it's like it might not have been the best film ever, but it was enjoyable for what it was because we know what it is. You know?
Yeah.
That's why it's like I couldn't imagine watching the FNAF movie without any concept of what FNAF is. Like, could you imagine that?
No.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it.
I could imagine maybe like a parent being like, "Oh, let's see what this whole Five Nights at Freddy's thing my 8-year-old or whatever is into."
God, Is this all? Is this all the theory things or whatever? Was that the theorist guy in the diner or whatever? God,
Is that Markiplier's son?
God, we didn't even talk about MatPat's fucking cameo, which was fantastic, and we were freaking out in the theater about it. Talking about how breakfast is the most important most important meal of the day, but then he goes, "It's just a theory, though."
But remember, that's just a theory.
And we're all sitting in our seats. We're looking back and forth at each other. He's like, he said the thing. He said the thing. He said the thing. I was like, the only thing I think that would have made that movie better is like having Mark in there, but obviously he was too busy with Iron Lung to be able to make a cameo in that. But
yeah,
I could only imagine that if they were, that he was going to be the taxi driver, and that instead of being Mark, he would be like Wilfred Warstash, where he'd have like a pink mustache or whatever. He's like, well, I never seen something like this before, but there's new experiences every day. I could only imagine that's how it was originally going to go. But then they were like, well, shit, now Mark's not available. So it's like, we're just going to have this other guy do like, it's just another Tuesday night in the taxi driving with a giant animatronic and a kid in the back seat.
We're doing this again.
Yep.
That yellow bunny man's got himself a real good gig going on. I don't know.
Anyway.
It's like Larry the Cable Guy playing the taxi driver in Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, dang kids in their Five Nights at Freddy's.
Gosh dang nabbit.
Dang nabbit. Your magic dreams and ghost children.
You fucking ghost children, you think you could take me alive? I'll fucking kill all y'all. Get my shotgun!
I got a shotgun, you animatronic fucks. You can't get me.
You know, I will say, I was like, Vanessa says, oh, use the electricity from like the stun guns or like the little like baton, like taser baton thingy or whatever that he got. Yeah. And I'm sitting here going like, why can't we just shoot these things? Why can't you just give him a gun?
I imagine that. I don't know, dude. We're talking about ghost rules, okay?
I know, but
magic.
It's just really funny. It's like, oh, your only weapon against them is going to be electricity, and I'm sitting here going, you could just burn the place down. You could just set them on fire.
Well, he's trying to get his sister out.
You could just set them on fire, and then burn the place down after you get her out.
Complications, okay? Shut up.
You're
asking the wrong questions.
And then it's like, well, why didn't they just burn down the place or whatever? After it was all like, the whole place had collapsed. It's like, all right, let's burn it to the ground now. Didn't do that. Well, then they can't leave themselves open for a sequel.
Was he still working there by the end of the movie? I had to imagine that he had to get a different job after that.
I couldn't imagine he'd ever want to go back there after that.
Mm. Well, it's like, who's going to pay him then?
I don't know.
Because it's like
I'm sure.
His employer just like got fucking killed by ghost children. This
is where like the sequel is actually just going to be Sister Location.
Sure. I assume that it's going to have a different main character.
You can have Baby or whatever. I think that was the animatronic.
Circus Baby is the name of it.
Yep. Yep. Or people were saying it's like, oh, you could have like an Afton like origin story, and I said they're going, but do they really want to do that?
I don't think a movie that's just about an old guy killing children and no, that's a bad idea.
That's what I said.
Don't do that.
Do they really want that though?
No. Okay, now we can end. That's
exactly
enough Five Nights at Freddy's for Alex today.
All right. This is truly the episode that does never end. So.
Yep, almost at 2 hours now.
Except for right now. Now it's ending. So, thank y'all so much for watching or listening to the ramblings of this.
It never ends.
Yes. It truly that's why I made the name that, and I was like, man, this is already isn't a name for a podcast. Well, it definitely should be, because I feel like there are times we're just gonna ramble on about random bullshit, and we go look over the clock. It's like, it's 2 hours later. What the hell? I'm close enough today.
Yeah.
So yeah. Be sure to follow my co-host over there at his Twitch channel. Links in the description of the podcast, and yeah, be sure to subscribe to the channel and the podcast and whatever. See y'all next week. Bye-bye.